Jess Fealy, welcome here this morning, and thank you very much for your time in sharing your experiences and really your journey with us and with me today. Jess, your business is Back Paddock Business, and I know you're involved in so many great other initiatives as well. So before we talk about your journey and look at certain components of it, can you maybe tell me a little bit about yourself, but also about all the wonderful things that you're involved in?
Yeah. Hi, Aretha. Thanks for having me. Look, I think I'm a bit of a crazy lady and I'm still finding my real path in life. So I've got lots of hats that I wear. My business is called Back Paddock Business, and that started because I had a new baby who was my youngest of 4, and we had recently moved to manage our family farm from Brisbane to our family farm. And so that was my way of still keeping my hand in and being able to have a work life for myself, but that I could manage around our farm and our kids. So I'm a chartered accountant by trade, but my real passion is social media, in particular blogging and all things Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So my Back Paddock Business centres around helping people with their social media, setting up blogs that they can use for business, e-newsletters, so they're really popular these days. So that's the sort of work I do with my Back Paddock Business. I'm also a farm wife, as I mentioned, so we have Blue Sky Produce, which is a 153-acre mango, avocado and lime farm here in Mareeba in Far North Queensland. So that's a family-owned property that my husband and I manage for his family. I also work part-time for our local council as their social media and digital communications officer, and I am a volunteer with Startup Tablelands, which is our organisation, I guess, on the Tablelands that's really trying to promote all things startup and innovation in business. I'm really passionate about that because I think it ties in really nicely with my accounting background, but also with my desire to see rural and regional areas thrive. I think our business communities are really important to the economies for rural areas. So, and I think there's a stack of tips and tricks and learning that needs to happen in our communities in this innovation and business building space that could have a big impact and really help our local businesses, you know, succeed and be really vibrant in our communities. So I think that's me. I think that's everything.
Yeah, look, that's wonderful. I think what is a wonderful combination in your package is the fact that you've got the accounting side, but you've got the social media side as well. It's quite a rare combination.
Yes.
Yeah, I can just see you going very, very far with the combination of those two components as you head into the future. So, you said you wear quite a few hats. So how do you see yourself, your kind of identity-wise in this entrepreneurial space? Do you see yourself as an entrepreneur, or how would you kind of describe yourself?
I haven't seen myself as an entrepreneur in the past. I sort of see myself as a small business owner or a mum who's dabbling in this space and trying to figure out what I want and what works best for me. So I really thought that starting my own business would work really nicely with having a family, but I struggle with the really kind of unplanned, spontaneous nature that has to happen with having your own business when you've got 4 kids and a farm that kind of needs commitment. So that's why I've sort of got the part-time job happening that locks in those regular hours for me. And I'm still, I guess, dabbling as an entrepreneur with my own business and trying to work out which path is right for me.
Sure. So Jess, tell me a little bit about, in terms of progressing all of these initiatives as well as your business and so forth, tell me a little bit about your mindset and what are the kind of mindset issues that's really worked for you in actually driving these initiatives forward?
Yeah, I think commitment. So a really valuable lesson that I've learnt in the last couple of years is that it's easier to do something 100% than it is to do it at 98%. So I guess when I decide that I'm going to take on a project, it's 100%. That's what I'm doing. And it's much easier then to go, well, I have to do everything to make this happen, instead of kind of going, oh, I want to do it, but I'm busy, and and then you're always, I think it's called decision fatigue, but you're always going, oh, should I be doing this now or this, and I think if you decide to commit to something, whatever it, whether it's a business idea or a community group project, if you decide 100% that's what I'm doing, it really makes it easier then to see the logical steps that has to happen, to make the decisions that have to happen, because you've said, I'm 100% committed to this. So that's been something that's been really valuable for me to learn, is to decide, okay, am I in or out? And if I'm in, then that means you have to do the work. You have to turn up at the meetings. You have to, meet your deadlines. There isn't a choice. Yeah.
Very, very good advice. There's no doubt about that. Tell me a little bit about, would there be like one person that you really admire out there in the entrepreneurial space?
Oh, that's a tricky question. One person that I really...
and why?
A couple, I'll mention two, and they're Queensland women. So Julia Telford, who has her own business in Goondiwindi, Engage and Create Consulting, and Fleur Anderson from, I think she's Theodore, which is Central Queensland. So I've seen those two around the traps at different rural women's events and different agriculture type events. But I really admire the way that they're from really quite small, remote country towns, and they're doing fantastic things, running their own businesses with, Fleur's got a family and Julia's got her husband and their personal businesses. So, and they're really community focused at the same time. So, that would be two women. Who else would I admire? Oh, I should have thought about that one a bit harder.
Tell me a little bit, when you start an initiative, like with your business, in this particular case, did you start up with this big grand vision, or how did you go about kind of carving out the steps in terms of starting it up?
I had no grand vision. I knew that I wanted to work. So our family business is a family farm, and there's not a lot of room for myself in it at this point in time. So I was getting a little bit frustrated that, I wanted to have a say in things. And then I thought, perhaps there's a need for an accountant working from home. And that was more from people saying, oh, you're an accountant, can you give us a hand with this? So that's how it started. But I guess I got a little bit more direction when I decided I didn't want to just do accounting. Like, I love social media. So that was when I had to be a little bit specific about the type of work that I've decided to take on, and keeping in mind that I have lots of other hats happening too. So I'm very, I've learnt to be able to say no and only take on the things that I know I can commit to, and that I feel really fit with the direction I'm heading in.
Yeah. So what do you enjoy most about being an entrepreneur or being entrepreneurial?
I think the thing I enjoy most is it's exciting, and the challenge, and also that it's not the same thing every day. So, and it's getting to work with different people and different projects. I really enjoy that side of things, particularly living in a rural area where that's not always the case. You don't have access, like in a city, you'd have lots of variety in your client work or the people that you meet, but in a rural area, that's a little bit different. So the ability to choose my own work and decide the people that I'd like to meet, and also the research. I love to read. So I really love keeping a handle on what's happening in different spaces, and I think that's something that's really important if you've got your own business or you're an entrepreneur, that you read widely and connect widely. So
what does success mean to you? What is success to you?
I'm an accountant, so I'm always going to say the dollars are a big part of it. So I think being able to earn, to make money, to make a profit from what I'm doing is definitely important to me. But also I have this desire to want to help my community and give back. So that's really important to me, to be able to have that as part of my work. And again, that's another great thing about having your own business, is that you can choose those projects that perhaps give you that fulfillment in terms of helping your community. And then my third element would be trying to get some balance in my work life and my family life. But I haven't ticked that one at all.
Very difficult to do.
Very.
Jess, do you work with startups, with startup tablelands in your own business. Do you think that there's some kind of formula that is important for women entrepreneurs to follow in their journeys, and that would make it a bit easier for them?
Yeah, I do, Aretha. I really think that there's a couple of key things. And the first is to have a go, and to do that quickly and with as minimal effort and money to get it started as possible. I think that's something that I've really learnt, is don't overthink it. Don't spend money on business cards and beautiful websites and that sort of thing. Just get started. Approach someone and say, this is what I can do. How about it? And give it a go. Because also the other thing is, this is particularly relevant in my case, I thought that I would really love that I would really love having my own business. But now I'm thinking, is it really right for me? And it would be very difficult for me if I'd spent thousands of dollars on a website and business cards and then to feel trapped in that. So I think have a go, have a play is definitely one of the keys. And the next would be to get some advice or connecting with a group that can help you. And that's tricky. I'm not a particularly, what would the word be, person who loves to talk, and I'm not particularly that way inclined, but I do think it's important to try and get to know people and find groups like startup groups or chamber groups or women's networking groups that can help support your progression and just give you some good mentors to tap into.
Now, you obviously, social media is, you love the social media side of things. So have you got any advice for women out there around building their customer base? Any advice or tips that you can give them?
Yep, on social media, building their customer base on social media. Yeah, my biggest tip is be consistent. So whether that's post once a week or once a day or twice a day, but be consistent in when you're posting so that people can rely on your content to be there. And my second would be, social media is about being social, and I think people forget that. It's about chatting and relating. So that means commenting on pages as your business page, or sharing, being generous, sharing other people's content, and letting people get to know you. So it's not all about selling your product or your service. I have a rule of thumb that it's 1 in 3 posts can be about that. The rest has to be generously sharing somebody else's stuff, or posting something that gives an insight into the person you are, whether that's a picture of your office or your your kids or your latest project that you're working on, but something that helps people relate to you, and then something funny or just to keep the content varied. And remember, it's social. Like, people will soon get sick of you just pitching your business sale items and services, and so they're my big tips for social media.
Now, I'm asking you this particular question because you've got the financial background, and I can't ask that of all women entrepreneurs, because a lot of times they say, well, that's one aspect they don't really like very much. So, but you've got that background. What kind of financial tips have you got for aspiring women entrepreneurs, or even, women that actually want to grow their businesses?
Yep. So I would say get an online bookkeeping system stat from the start, and they're quite reasonably priced, Xeros and you reckon hosteds and that sort of thing, which are online and available from your devices. They start from around $25 a month or something like that. And that does all your invoicing. You can take photos of your receipts on your phone and then save them into the system. So I would, that's my biggest tip for small businesses. Get using that straight away. And you won't use it right to start with, but the more you do it, the more familiar you will become with it. And it will save you so many headaches down the track. And then the next thing would be just to review, set yourself up to look at your accounts once a week, whether you lock in 10 or 15 minutes, but lock that in as a consistent business practice. And whether that's just looking at your invoices and chasing up anything outstanding, or, as you get a bit more familiar with your accounting program, then you can start looking at your profit and loss, and you might see some expenses that are really jumping out at you as, why are these so high? And don't be scared that you have to know everything to start with, but lock in 15 minutes a week to really spending that time on learning in your business around the finances, and it will save you. And do it when you start, because it's much easier when you've only got 3 transactions in a week to get that routine happening around keeping an eye on them, keeping your head in that side of your business. And it's not fun for lots of people, even myself included for my own business. It's not fun, but it does make a big difference in terms of the financial success of your business.
Jess, what's your view on mentorship?
I find that a really tricky one. I really believe in the value of it. Personally, I haven't found a mentor for myself, and I would love to do that at some point. I don't have any experience to offer anybody other than what I've heard, which is just to approach someone that you admire and start that conversation around mentoring. I can totally see the value in it and would love to find that for myself at some point, but I just haven't got there yet.
Yeah. What about partnerships? What's your view on partnerships? Is that something that you have experienced previously, going into partnerships, or maybe considering for the future?
I haven't had any experience with partnerships other than from a professional side of things as an accountant, in setting partnerships up for people and working with the accounting side of partnerships. I think you have to be very careful with partnerships to choose the people correctly. And again, it's easy to go online and Google partnership agreements, and you can come up with a pro forma type document that really sets out some rules and some, governance type arrangements that will help you with that partnership going forward. For me personally, I hadn't considered a partnership. I think I would be open to it if I came across the right person.
And what about, I don't really want to call it networking, because sometimes networking can have almost a negative connotation, but in the entrepreneurial space, it's seen as being very valuable. And you obviously do that really well. Even you say you're not the great person, you just want to talk and so forth. But there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who's also introverts, but
yes,
within the social media space, you're obviously very successful. I've seen you operate across other domains, where you're very, very good at that aspect of it. Have you got maybe any lessons to share, or advice that you can give to other women as to how about creating those relationships or creating those networks?
Yeah, look, I certainly in the last few years of my own journey have begun to see that networks are incredibly important. I don't like to think of them as networks. Like you said, I really don't like that term. I think of it more as being open to meeting people and being genuinely interested in other people and what's happening in their world, and learning to listen and ask questions. Yes, I'm an introvert, but I am also nosy, and I like to know what's happening in other people's life. Like, I'm genuinely interested in that, and I like people. So I think that helps when you're networking. We'll have to come up with a new word for that. I think it'll have to be wiring or
creating professional relationships.
Yeah, that's right. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is to be willing to open up a little bit more than what you normally would about yourself, and show some vulnerabilities or ask some questions, or I don't think you have to be an expert at everything, and it's okay to say, I'm really terrible at this and you're really good at that, and can you tell me how you did that? And but also on the flip side, if you are good at something or have some experience in something, then be really willing to share that. And I think it's hard in business. Sometimes we like to really protect something that we think we're good at so that no one else can do it, and particularly in small towns where competition can be quite fierce. But I really think that we do ourselves a disservice by being like that, and we're better off just being open and having that belief that there is enough to go around, and we can all have the businesses that we want because we're different people and we'll appeal to different customer bases and we have different skill sets. And I think that's really key when you're networking and talking to people, is not to hold on to your secrets too tightly, to be willing to go to that next level in your conversations, to move from how many kids and what business to, that deeper kind of conversation around, well, how do you do that and why do you do that? And, I think that's the real key to building those relationships. And that's what it is. It's building relationships that then people really know you and you know them, and you might be willing to work together when who knows what happens. So, yeah.
Jess, obviously any entrepreneur, but especially in the rural, in the regional, remote spaces, a lot of barriers that you face sometimes, and you come across specific limitations that hold you back, or hurdles. Like, could you maybe talk about maybe one of those, but also how do you go about overcoming those hurdles when they come up?
Yeah, I definitely think that in rural and regional space, we do have some significant hurdles in business. Having said that, though, I think that's changing, particularly with social media and the internet. There's no reason why, we can't have global businesses in rural Australia. I truly think the next Steve Jobs is going to be a farmer or, someone in agriculture. I really believe that. So, there are plenty of opportunities coming. I think the key is that people have to learn, they have to get across some of these opportunities in social media or having an online business. So you really have to step out and upskill in your business. Well, I've forgotten the question, Retha. What were you...
Yeah, no, I was just asking if there's been, an example of a hurdle that you came across, and how did you go navigating through that in a hurdle?
I think that one of the biggest hurdles that I've come across is there doesn't seem to be the dollars in rural areas to spend on some of these support type, industries, whether that's your bookkeeping or your social media. So it's a hard sell to get people to pay you for something that they could do themselves, or it appears that they could, just do themselves, or it's not that valuable. So I've really had to be able to put some return on investment type figures around, what they're going to get out of my service. And that's tricky, even for me as an accountant, to come up with those figures and also learn to sell. I'm not a salesperson by nature. And the other tricky thing about our rural area is you've got limited customers. So yes, there's potential for a global, online business, but when you're doing your market validation or, really doing your testing type phase of your business, in some towns we can only have 100 potential clients, and that's tricky. I don't really have the answer for that yet, other than I think we have to think bigger and utilise the internet and social media perhaps from the get-go with our businesses, which is not the traditional thought process when you're setting up a new business. So it's really opening your mind up to, okay, who are my customers and where can I go to find them? So the dollars and the access to customers in rural areas are two of the big barriers, I think.
Jess, let's move a little bit on to strategies. What strategies have you found work really well for you, both online and offline, in building and developing your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, so definitely online. The biggest strategy is consistency, and being very open with our content that we post. So from a farming perspective, is probably where I spend the most time on social media. So we really, everybody laughs at our family because I guess we're the oversharers. So our kids, our farm, why we do what we do, what my hubby had for smoko on the tractor the other day. But I think there's a real want from consumers to connect with the businesses that they spend their dollars in. As a society, I think we've got a little bit more affluent, or we're a bit more cautious with how we spend our money. So we really make decisions, not always based on price these days. It can often be on, what connection, or do I share the same values as that business? So I think that's a really, you have to remember that when you're online and try and get that into your strategy for how you're marketing your business online. In person, I think we apply the same type of philosophy to our business, which is, what you see is what you get with us. And, we're big on family, we're big on our local community, we love rural Australia. And so the business that we do, or that I choose to do, will be around that type of work. So I think it's having that real clear idea in your mind about what, why you do what you do. I know there's a lot happening, on the internet, and Simon Sinek and those sort of people around the why, but I do think that's a really important part of business. And it will also help you, as I said, when you come down the track to make those decisions, if you're really solid in, okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? And does this, client, or does this business decision line up with what I'm about? And I think that really does help with decision making in business.
What about social media platforms? Have you got preferences that you think work really well, and especially kind of in the rural space?
Yeah, I think, if you look at the stats for social media use in Australia, Facebook far outweighs any other. So if you really are just starting out, then I would start with Facebook as a starting point, because that's where the majority of people in Australia are. And that's it's an easy, most of us have our personal Facebook pages, so you're already a little bit familiar with how the platform works. So it's an easy one to start out with. Then I think definitely Twitter and Instagram, and that will depend on the type of business you are. So, if you're into, cooking or food, then I probably would say Instagram is the way to go, because it's a really visual, if you're a tourism business or something like that. But then Twitter I found really useful for us in terms of connecting with the media and with industry bodies in agriculture in particular. So I would say they would be your three that you would try to be doing regularly. And obviously YouTube is another huge area if you're into the video. Now, I struggle with the video side of things. I'm still trying to, get up to speed with the video editing and with the real raw nature of video, but that's certainly where we're headed as a worldwide trend in the social media space. So we have to get up to speed with our video.
So what about, there's this magnitude of information on social media tools and online tools and every day there's new, better tools that come along. Have you maybe got any advice on how do you choose out of this vast majority of tools out there, and to narrow that down for your business?
Yeah, look, for me, it comes back always to the stats. And again, that's probably the accountant side of thing. But look where the users are. So look where your customers are.
Mm.
And it's quite easy to Google, you know, social media statistics or you know, there's a few great websites like Social Media Examiner and those sorts of places that are real highlight the trends that are happening in social media space. So, you know, make use of those and see what the experts are recommending. But my biggest tip is look where your customers are, look where your users are, and focus on those first. So, you know, get a handle on Facebook, get a handle on Instagram and Twitter. And then if you feel comfortable with those and you can manage the workload that comes with those, then I'd say go looking, you know, for another social media tool. In terms of the different apps and the different bits and pieces that you can get on your phone, there's so many. I wouldn't know where to start. For me personally, I read a lot. So as I said, I follow a lot of those social media type sites, a lot of the podcasts and that sort of thing that help me keep up to speed. And if I have a spare second, I might download one or two of them and give them a try. And I know pretty quickly whether whether they're easy for me to use and I can see the value in them or not, and just delete them. So I think, you know, liking a few of those Facebook pages that will help you start to speed, following a few of the podcasts, and they're really just Google, you know, social media podcasts and you'll come up with a stack. Same on Facebook and just make an effort to stay across those a little bit.
Are there any other strategies that you like to share?
For social media?
Oh, just generally, I think for, you know, developing your entrepreneurial journey. Yeah,
look, I think definitely if you can get involved with a group, do that, and whatever, you know, whether it's a startup group or a women's networking group.
With the WIRE program?
The WIRE program, exactly. Then do that, because you will be amazed at how much you can learn from the other people in that group. And it forces you to once a month or once a week make that commitment to learning and networking for the betterment of your business. From a social media point of view, there's so many I could share. I'd have to show you, I think. We'd have to, you know, get online and I could show you a few tips and bits and pieces. I think that's about it.
Jess, you know, you must have learned some lessons on your way. What would be your kind of overall biggest lesson that you have learned and that you want to share with us?
This is a new lesson that I've learned recently, and I think that has been that there's a lot of value to come from the things that you say no to, not necessarily just the things that you say yes to. So I think I'm like a lot of women that we try to do so much. There's lots that's important to us, our communities, our jobs, our businesses, and we're very used to saying yes, yes, yes. And I've done that to the detriment of my business and haven't delivered, and my community work, and haven't delivered the level, the standard that I think I'm capable of and that I would want to produce. So in the last few months, I've definitely learnt that if I say no to some things, it really benefits the things that I've said yes to. So that's my one big piece of advice is especially when you're starting out as an entrepreneur, there's lots of opportunities. Like, you just seem to see opportunities everywhere and great ideas, and, you know, you'll be asked to present at this and work with this person, and it's really exciting. And but I think you have to be very careful when that starts happening, and to really be clear in what's important to you and what you're trying to achieve. So try and lock that down as early as you can, and not kill yourselves or wear yourselves out in the process, which happens as well. And then you end up just not enjoying your business at all, because it just turns into this big stressful type project. So I think if you can really learn to say no to some things, even though they may seem amazing opportunities, and pick the moments that fit the best.
Yeah. You're obviously doing incredible work in your community. You're very, very passionate about it. And, you know, really living an entrepreneurial life, really. Is there could you maybe share one kind of amazing thing in the future that you still would like to do, or would like to deliver in the future?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I'd love to meet Michelle Obama. That's just a random side fact.
Yeah, me too.
And be interviewed by Richard Feidler. That would be awesome. For me personally, as I said to you, I would love to live in a community where the next Steve Jobs type enterprise was born in our rural community, and I would love to have felt that in some small way. I was part of that process. I think that would be awesome, and that I had a thriving business, and my neighbours had thriving businesses, and the mums at school. And, we all know that rural Australia is the best place to live. So if we can have awesome careers there too, I think that's like the golden.
Yeah. Is there, before I ask my last question, is there any other parting pieces of advice that you'd like to maybe share with other women out there?
I think I have a couple. So I would say have the courage. So be confident and have the courage to have a go. As I said, don't spend too much money or time on it, and don't overthink it, because women in particular like to overthink. Just jump in, be brave and jump in, and also be kind. And so that means by that I mean be kind to yourself, but be kind to the people around you too, and remember that we're all just trying to do the best we can, and that we can all really thrive together. So keep that in mind. What else? Just try not to overdo things.
Where can we find you, Jess? Because I'm sure there's a lot of women out there that would like to connect with you. Where can we find you online?
So you can find me online everywhere. I'm very embarrassed to say that.
That's very good.
So our farm is Blue Sky Produce, so you can find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram just by searching Blue Sky Produce. My business is Back Paddock Business, and so you can find me on Facebook as Back Paddock Business or Fealy Family, which is where I share way too much information about our family. So we have a blog, www.fealyfamily.com, and our social media handles are all there. Or I think if you Googled me, you'd find me on LinkedIn and everywhere.
Jess, thank you very, very much for your time today and for all these, wonderful pieces of inspiration you've offered, and looking very much forward to connecting with you as the Y program progresses as well, because, you've already kind of really helped us to make some inroads up in the Atherton area, which, we just have very grateful for. So talking to you soon, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Retha. We'll see you up here in Far North Queensland soon.